Welcome back, folks. Okay, so I've done that standard thing where I do a load of stuff off camera and don't film any of it. So the only stuff I've done is basically just rip out a load of the ancillaries, bits of the wiring, and basically disconnect the whole entire engine. So the engine at the minute is just sat floating on the subframe ready to lift out. Nothing unusual with these, just the generic stuff. Got the crane behind me, so I'll set that up in a minute. I've just had a bit of a sort out, so I've just put a couple of bits in the toolbox and just sort of made a bit of space around me. Again, like we said, we're not doing anything special in here. This is basically a DIY build now, just to show you what's kind of possible. I've also created some carnage inside. So dash has come out, top dash rails come out with a bit of brute force and ignorance, and we've kind of broken a couple of bits. But that's fine, we'll get those fixed. So plans for this, the walnut dash that was in it, that is sat over there, that's not going back in. We're going to do standard drop bracket on the steering column, new black steering wheel. We're going to do a trimmed top dash rail, so as it is now, but we'll put some vinyl over the top of it. We've got a new lower dash rail come in, that'll get a leather trim onto it as well. And then we're going to go with the standard 3 clock, like Mayfair style dash, painted black rather than the grey. I've got the standard brackets coming, but I think I'm going to set it back, because otherwise normally it sits kind of way out here and it'll look a bit silly without the top dash rail in. So we're going to mount those further back, and then we've got an optimised dash lining kit without the vents that will go in and just tidy everything up. ECU and everything is going to sit over this side. Not sure whether it's going to be visible yet, or if we're going to have it hung underneath on a little hinged panel. So that's yet to be decided. Let us know what you think in the comments. Switch panel's going to go, so obviously we're not going to need the choke. We're not going to need a load of the extra switches anymore, because we'll be able to do a lot of that through the Haltech. The only thing I want to have down here is headlights, hazards, and then I'm going to put a rotary switch in the middle, which will become our like our power levels setup. So for when we use this car for demos, we'll be able to turn it up and down as we go, depending on what people want. Obviously that's kind of down the line when we do the turbo stuff, but we need to think about it now. So what I'm going to do the rest of tonight is just pull the engine out, stick it on the floor, make sure there's nothing that's completely broken, nothing else that I need to order. Put a big order in with mini spares yesterday for a couple of bits. So the exhaust that came off it is absolutely knackered. So we're just going to throw a cheap Maniflow on there for now. I don't have time to put one of my nice ones on there. That'll come in the future potentially. If not, we'll just throw a turbo kit onto it instead. We've got a new rad, as I said, that was the wrong size. New clutch lines. The servo has had to come off for us to take the engine out anyway, so that's now in the bin. That's never going back in again. So when we come back to put the new master on, we're going to swap it to a yellow tag, but when we do that, I'll do a little video about swapping them over. So there's a little bush you have to change, and then sometimes depending on the brackets you have to space the cylinders up. Wiring is all disconnected. I'll pull that back through shortly. I thought the wiring loom was going to be in a horrific condition, but it's actually got a date stamp on it inside for 2017. So it's relatively new. There's a couple of weird bullet connectors and stuff here and there, which are not standard. That's fine. But otherwise, all of the extra wiring that was in it was just extra. It wasn't manipulated into the old loom. So I think the loom's going to stay. I'm going to change the fuse box. I'll show you what we supply with the EFI kit shortly. And then the chances are I'm going to use something very similar in the engine bay, just to give us a couple of extra circuits and tidy some things up. Engine wise, we're not going to do anything to it this time. We're just going to strip it apart, or we're not going to strip it apart, sorry. We're just going to clean it up, repaint it, throw it back in as it is. We'll do the standard service checks, new plugs, new filters, check all the clearances and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy for now. We were toying with putting a head and a cam on it, but time and budget just don't allow us to do it. In 2 weeks and 2 days, I've got a friend that's coming down that's going to help me repaint the engine bay. We're still deciding on colours, but it's potentially going to go some sort of gunmetal that will fit with the final colour of the car, like we said. So that'll be good to go. In other news, all the Haltech goodies are here for us. So minus the ITG filter, so the backplate and the filter itself, this is 99.9% of the kit that you get when you order fuel injection through us. So we've got the Nexus S2, super nice. It's actually quite small. It looks big inside the Mini, but it is quite small. Connection cable for your laptops. Obviously our billet throttle body housing, all made in the UK. Billet fuel rail, laser cut fuel rail holders, that's nice and solid. 54mm, 54mm drive-by-wire throttle body, ported inlet manifolds, so that's out to 50mm. We've had to do a bit of messing around for the O-ring because the core shift on these manifolds is pretty terrible. We've just cleaned up the insides. This is the generic or the basic Haltech loom. So as I said, we're going to kind of test this car a little bit. So it's going to be set up for NA for now, but we're going to add all the functionality into the loom and the harness for the boosted setup, plus a load of extra bits and pieces. So if and when any of you come to us and say, I want it to be able to do this, the looms that we pre-make are going to be ready and suited for you already. NGK coil, so that's got a built-in igniter, hence why it's a little bit bigger than what you would associate with like the Mega Jolt with the Ford coil packs. This is the pole vault fuse box, so everything comes straight out of the bottom. Basically got two little mounts on the sides, and then this one holds 8 fuses and 4 micro relays. So that will come with the loom pre-built in. That basically just gives you fuel pumps, ECU, ignition, fuses and relays ready set for the whole thing. Then we've got a Bosch 4.9 lambda sensor with the associated harness. Obviously that'll be built into the main loom. We've got a fuel regulator. This one I'm going to change because I want to have the ability to put a fuel pressure sensor into it. So that won't come with the kit, but it'll probably end up on this car to begin with, just because I've got it. Then we've got water temp sensors, air temp, NOx sensors. This car's going to have 2 on. So we're going to have one that the ECU reads off, and then we're going to have another one bolted onto the engine for the dyno operator to use. So they use a set of deck cans, basically just to listen to knock on their own. Then we've got the lovely Med S-damper setup. So 2 36:1 toothed wheel on the inside, the S-damper on the outside, and then the locking plate and the crank sensor kit. Depending on what timing cover setup you've got, so obviously this one is completely standard. You sometimes have to change the standoffs in here. So a couple of you might remember from the 998 build, we had to do a bit of messing around with that. But this one we shouldn't have to, but I'll go through the options when we get there. But for now, a sticker on the side will do a little bit of a time lapse, just of me lifting the engine out, dumping it on the floor. And then that's probably me done for tonight. And then after that, it's just a case of pulling the loom into the car, ripping out the master cylinders, ripping the wiper motor out, and then we're going to start kind of cleaning and prepping the engine bay ready for Jack to come down and hopefully make it all one pretty colour. So catch you in a minute. All right, so she's all out. Nice and easy. I forgot that I'd left the pot joints in, so that was just a case of wiggling it about to pop those off. But we've now got one big empty hole. Doesn't look too bad. Say paint's a bit crusty. You can see where it was obviously the original orange. Most of that is coming off, which is sort of good, sort of bad. We'll have to get in there and give it a nice clean off and prep. But the only things really to do now is just start ripping everything apart, or I say ripping everything off of the bulkhead, just so we can get it all set up ready for paint now. Not too much is going to change whilst we're in there. I think we'll probably do different washer bottles, so I don't really like them when they're sat across the side. And I might, despite me, don't know where it's gone, despite me putting a really nice wrinkled black rocker cover on it before retro rides, I might drill into that, put some fittings and then re-wrinkle it again. And then I might put a little breather tank over that side. It's just going to see how time goes really. Wiring's going to be the biggest thing. As I said, there's not too much to change, but I do want to change the standard fuse box. Having 4 fuses for, 10 or 11 circuits is just ridiculous. Quite why they did that in the 50s, who knows? But it is what it is. So we're going to swap to one of the little pole vault boxes. So they're modular, so you can pick whatever you want. So I think what I'm going to put in there is a 2 module box with probably 16 or 18 fuses and then a load of micro relays. We've obviously got the fuel pump relays and stuff that we're going to put in the boot. That'll all be controlled by the Haltech, but it just keeps a couple of bits out of the way. We'll have an auxiliary fan, so I will put one back in it, so you might be able to see just through the wing there. It's on some super weird mounts. I'm undecided. I might just put an electric fan inside the engine bay and get rid of the mechanical fan, which again is somewhere on the floor around me down there. So it's nice, I think it's a 12 blade. Nice enough fan, but it's 3 horsepower, so might get on to doing that. But yeah, thanks for joining in. Next one's probably going to be a bit boring. It'll probably end up being loads of time lapses of us just prepping the engine bay and painting the block, but some people like that stuff. So let's see how the next video goes. Thanks, guys.